So I've taken the Sync 2 module off of the screen, and there is, in addition to the 4 screws I'll show you in just a second, there's these mating connectors. You can see the pins mate to the holes. In addition to that, to give it some stability, you have some smaller standoffs near the connector, and then some larger standoffs on the outside with correlating holes right over here. And again, this was attached by four screws, just like that. Now, I actually picked up my handy dandy Phillips head screwdriver, and then I noticed that these are hex head 3mm screws, and there's 4 of them, and you need to retain them because we're going to be reusing this when we attach it to the new head unit. Now, when I know everybody likes to grab their power tools, I just don't want to use a power driver when I'm working on delicate equipment like this. I just used a standard hex head Allen wrench, 3mm to take them out. They weren't hard at all. I don't want to take the chance to mess up the head of whatever screw that I'm taking out, or trying to take out and not be able to get it out, or not be able to get it back in properly. So our next step is, again, it sort of jumped around here, and I apologize, but I wanted to show you this. Is we're going to attach, we're going to again take the electronics, the climate control electronics that are under this cover from the original head unit, take this cover off the new one, and transfer all those over, and then put the head unit on and attach all the wiring. Back for an update. So what you're looking at is the OEM bezel, and we obviously have this turned upside down. In order to get to the climate control boards, you're going to need to remove this black cover. The black cover is held down with a total of 9 2mm hex screws. And I'm going to try to point out where these are for you real quick. So we've got 1, 2, 3, sorry about the noise, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So once you get those 9 screws out, this plastic cover comes off, and underneath it is the boards for the climate control. Now these boards, there's an upper board and a lower board. Let's see if I can get into that. Sort of separated by the CD slot there. These are held together by 2 ribbon cables, so you want to be very careful when you move that. This board is also held down by 9 2mm hex screws. Now, I'm not going to be able to point out where those came from, but it'll be apparent. You'll have 9 screws that need to be taken out. You'll see 9 screw heads on here. Now, the other thing that I did want to point out is, even though this is held on by 2mm screws, and this is held on by 2mm screws, they are 2 different lengths, so they're not interchangeable. I bagged and tagged mine, so I knew what went where. So the next step in all this is going to be to remove the electronics, transplant them over here, get the sync module attached, get the wiring harness hooked up, and then we actually get to install the unit. Before you can actually mount the climate control boards that we took off previously and put them over here, you also have to take out the 2 knobs in the button panel and move them over here. And I'm not going to be able to show you that while I'm actually doing it because I need both hands. So I'm going to show you what on one knob, and that is there is a couple retaining posts on this thing that they fit on. Let me get over here. This pops right out, and as you can see, there's one retaining post in the other one, and then there is the ring, and I believe this is the illumination ring. And then you really can't put this in wrong. It just drops in there, and then the knob itself goes on its two retaining posts so that it's in the right orientation. And it's going to be held down securely with the screws that hold the climate control boards in. Now, I can't show you this because this is a bunch of little buttons and they may pop out of here, but this comes out all as one piece, and you can see how I'm jogging this a little bit. It comes out all as one piece from here. Gently move it over here, and again, there are little posts that this fits on so that you know that you've gotten it right. Alright, so I have the climate control knobs and the climate control pad installed out of there into there, and I have also installed the two climate control boards that are held together with the ribbon cables we talked about a little earlier. Now, the top board actually uses 5 provided screws. This is what Phoenix Audio gives you to attach this with, and you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these are just real small machine screws. And then the bottom board is going to use the OEM screws that you took out, and there's going to be more than you need, thank goodness, because I'm going to tell you the mistake I made. So originally I told you these were hex screws. These are not hex screws. These tighten down better with a T10 bit, so I assume they're T-bit screws, because when I tried to tighten, I started with the top two. When I tried to tighten those down, and I was really giving it a go at it, they wouldn't go any further, and it started stripping the heads out. And I only got the right corner one in so far, when I figured, wait a minute, let's back up and see what's going on here. It was in so well, I had to get a pair of needle nose pliers and to get that out. But I grabbed a T10 bit and they screwed right in. Fits very well. And the same thing goes with the screws on the Sync 2 unit. I believe these are T25 bits and not hex bits. So keep that in mind. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach the sync unit. I'm going to put the plastic cover over, and I'm going to start attaching cables, and you can see what the finished product looks like before we actually start installing it into the Ford. Okay, mistake number 2. I just told you that you used 4 OEM screws on the lower climate control circuit board. So I had put 2 here, the 2 heads that you see, and I had put 2 there and there. Well, when I went to put the plastic shroud, fancy name for cover, I noticed that I was actually seeing screw heads through those holes. So it's evident that those screws needed to come out, and we're going to use the longer screws that, and again, these are T10, at least that bit works. These are the longer screws from the OEM plastic shroud when we removed it. This shorter one is actually the same size screw. It's not quite as long, and it's one of the screws that we took out of the OEM climate control board holding it down. So let's get that completed. So Phoenix Automotive published a YouTube video on August 8th, 2019, and it's roughly a month later. And they're very insistent that regardless of whether it's a Sync 2 or a Sync 3 module, that it gets attached to their unit with the connectors down. Well, I've tried that, and that ain't gonna work. Once you've lined up, let's see if I can do this. Once you've lined up, not only is it really wobbly, you can't, the male and female pins, you just can't push down, and I'm afraid to push down too hard, fear of breaking those. And there is literally no mounting holes. They say that there's 2 mounting screws, and if you look down through there is no holes to actually attach this. Go to the 4th one. Sorry guys. There we go. Now if we turn it the way that they say it shouldn't be attached, clicks right into place, fits very well. There is 2 mounting holes that line up. That would be this one and this one. The other 2 are not used. So this is going to be how I mount it, because there seems to be no other way. So that video that they published is incorrect. So I have successfully moved all the electronics from the old unit over to the new Phoenix unit. So let's take a closer look at what we have going on here now that it's all assembled. So we do have the black cover put back on. Again, this is held on by 2 of the OEM screws that we took out of the old bezel. 4 supplied screws. You can see 2 here and 2 right under the sync unit. We have the sync unit itself. Again, this is installed with right side up, with connectors up, even though there's a video that shows that this should be connected with the connectors down. There's just no way to do it, so this is the way I did it. What we have now is 4 new connectors, and I assume these are going to be for the harness. So we have a large black one, a smaller black one. At the top, we have a larger white one and a smaller white one. And I just connected this to see what the connection was like. And then we have the GPS antenna. So this is the completed module, and the next step is actually going to be installing this. All right, boys and girls, we have a crap load of wires. I told you that I wanted to show you exactly where everything connected, and I'm going to do the best I can to do that. I've got to do it this way because obviously once I get this thing installed, there's no way to see where things went or how they connected. I'm going to start from the top and move my way down and see if I can explain this to you. So let's get rid of this ball of wires for just a second, if we can. So on the OEM bezel, your hazard traction in 360 camera were on the top face of it, facing you, so you could actually see them. So what they've done is they've moved them to the very top, so they're actually facing up. I don't know how that's going to work. We'll find out. But those are going to hook up. These just pop out of the OEM bezel, just pop out from the back, and these are going to get connected. These are the original connections, and the black and the gray that you see there is where they're going to be connected. Now, let's start with this small white connector. All right, so this has got your USBs. This has got your speaker, and again, I've been told that the only use for this speaker is actually through the software navigation. That's where your voice commands, or your voice commands come from the navigation system. Now, evidently, you're going to retain your original navigation system commands through the Sony system, but the software navigation doesn't come through the Sony system. All right, so, and guess what? We have two wires that are not going anywhere. And then we have the bigger white connector. All right, so what we have hooked up to the bigger white connector is what I've been told is this is a translator unit. Basically, it's translating commands to the head unit from the OEM. The only other wire that I believe is going to be used is the mic. And I am going to hook up the mic just for grins and giggles. You know, I want to hook up everything. I don't want Phoenix Automotive to say, well, that's not working because you didn't hook that up. Well, we're going to hook it up, and I'll show you how I'm going to run that in just a second. Now, there is all these RCAs, I assume, and RCAs, bare wires, some connectors, and I am assuming all those are for some sort of aftermarket. There was nothing in the video that showed what these go to, so, and I'm going to leave them alone, probably wrap them up and not terminate them. So, I told you the GPS antenna, right? That's the aftermarket. Now, this is one of the only connectors, and we can get this out of the way now. This is one of the only connectors that we disconnected that goes back in the same place. This was originally attached to the back of the Sync 2 unit. It is still attached back to the Sync 2 unit. And the same with the USB. I just didn't have enough room to pull it out, but that's going to fit right there. Okay, now let's move over to the CD CPU unit. Part of the harness flares out and gives you these two connectors, and they are going to connect to those two connectors. You also have your black, let's see if I can get my hand down there. You also have your black and yellow, and these are probably just your antenna connections, your GPS antenna and your AM/FM antenna. So those go back in the same place as well. And then two of the original connectors from the harness from OEM that was hooked up to the back of the OEM, not the sync module, but I believe it was the climate control. Don't know. Actually hooked up to the back right here. Now, what I did with my mic and what I plan to do with my USBs is I am going to run those down through and pull them out under. I'm going to put one USB, pull it out under here, and I'm going to do the other one on the other side just like that. And probably what I'm going to do is get a flush mount USB So I'll drill a hole out, put it in there so I can attach it from the back, and then we can hook our phones up from the front here. I also did the same with the mic. I pulled it out underneath, down through there. It's now sitting on the floorboard. It's got plenty of wire, so I'll probably pull it up and attach it someplace in this area in case it's needed. All right, take a quick look. I think that's it, man. So what we're gonna do is start hooking this puppy up. See you back in a few. Okay, so I've got the unit all wired up. I don't have it buttoned down or installed. As you can plainly see, I've still got wires running everywhere. But I do have a major issue. And at this point, I'm going to put it down to my fault that I've wired something wrong, which is a good possibility. But none of the soft on-screen buttons correlate to what you're actually wanting to do. And I'll just give you a quick example. Is this picture can be changed by swiping. The problem is that I have to swipe the calendar, and as you can see, it changes the picture. If I want to change the calendar, I can swipe the picture. So we've got something wrong here, and I'm going to take this out and check the wiring. Also, the AC controls aren't working. I believe that might be a system setting that I have to get into, and I can't get into those system settings because when I press the buttons, it doesn't take me to the correct item. And the last little ditty is my airbag light is on, and I don't have any, and you can see I've got a low tire too, but I have no idea why that is on. So those are issues we're going to fix. Be back at you soon. After disconnecting all the wires and taking everything out to the workbench and checking to make sure that I had attached the sync module correctly. Again, they say it should go with the connectors down. You can't attach it like that. I reassembled everything, rewired everything, making sure that all my wiring harnesses were tight and had clicked into place. And once I fired the unit up, I was exhibiting the same problem that you saw in the last video, and that is that these soft controls don't correlate to the button you press. Otherwise, you press music and climate control comes up. You hit climate control and music comes up. So I think I might have either a bad wiring harness, I have a bad translator, a bad unit, period. So, and after looking at the wiring, I just want to tell everyone that, you know, there's no way that you can physically connect the male and female connectors into the wrong location. Suppose if you're a complete idiot, you could shove them in, but even then it'd be very hard. I mean, if we walk through this, it's pretty easy. We've got, at the bottom down there, are the original two connectors that came from the CD player, and that is these right here. And of course, we do have the two antennas as well. Those connect to this wiring harness. This wiring harness then connects to these two locations here. Then we have three connectors on the back of the unit itself. The original wire to the sync module, which is here. And then the connectors supplied on their unit get hooked up to these two connectors. And again, there's no way that you can attach these connectors together incorrectly. It just can't be done. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out completely, reassemble my original sink. I'm going to put a support ticket in, see what they tell me, and then hopefully we'll have another video or two with a unit that actually works.